I grabbed a couple clips so we can go down memory lane for a minute.
Which team made the best decision? Okay, let's go to Mahomes with Kansas City. Andy Reid, the first thing he said was the kid needs a lot of work and is not gonna play. But why you trade up to get him to wait on him? Like if he's that good, you went over Deshaun Watson, you traded up, but I still got to wait on the cookies. The cookies ain't ready yet. The passing system that they have in the Big 12, guys have not been successful with that transition.
That's
to
a fair
the NFL.
point. That was a fair point.
So now let's get to Deshaun Watson. Basically had 1,000 yards against Alabama with all those pros on the defense. And these other two teams traded up to get these other kids, for them to be able to get Deshaun Watson, I believe was the best quarterback, because all of them have flaws.
Yes.
But I believe the only one out of them going to win a championship, if there is one, is Deshaun Watson.
So Patrick Mahomes, I don't like it. I do not like this pick. I mean, I love the Deshaun Watson trade because they didn't have to give up a whole lot to get him. But what they did, swap 25 and they give up next year's number one. But this is the best fit. He has the best team. He has the best pedigree. He has the best resume. That's good enough for me.
If I'm Cleveland, I would have taken Deshaun Watson, but I'm very happy Cleveland didn't take Deshaun Watson because the move of the night and the steal of the night was for the Houston Texans to get Deshaun Watson with the 12th pick overall.
Quarterbacking, Houston and Kansas City, Deshaun Watson against Patrick Mahomes. Michael, is this really the future of the NFL present?
I think this is the future of the NFL quarterback between these two.
A little
How great is that?
Those guys are buddies.
The two richest guys in the league right now.
So then another 3 years pass.
Was absolutely phenomenal. And the way that he willed this team to a win at the end of the game speaks to his leadership and his heart. But his talent is unquestioned. Patrick Mahomes, for me, is now in the conversation with Joe Montana, now in the conversation with Tom Brady. And no, he's not close to the GOAT yet. But when you look at the way this man plays the game, as opposed to the talent that anybody else has ever played it with, he's already the best we've ever seen.
The Cleveland Browns made one of, if not the worst trade plus contract in NFL history. They still owe another first-round pick for Deshaun Watson to the Houston Texans this coming year. Deshaun Watson yesterday was playing a team whose offense had -7 fourth-quarter yards, and Deshaun was the worst quarterback on the field.
January 12, 2020. The best two young quarterbacks in the league faced off. 3 years into their young NFL careers, these members of the 2017 draft class had already made their mark. Deshaun Watson in 3 years had already made 2 Pro Bowls and was months away from leading the entire league in passing yards. Mahomes won the damn MVP his second season and then leveled up his third year and won the damn Super Bowl. Back at that time, it felt like these 24-year-olds would be the quarterback battle we'd be watching for years to come. Perfect rivals, a Texas kid versus a Georgia kid, who were literally born 3 days apart. The birthday thing is crazy. I thought my CPU was glitching. I guess it's not that big of a deal, but like, bro, what's the odds? Anyway, at 24, they had the league at their feet. Endless possibilities to how these great careers could turn out. But it's like they bottled up all the potential greatness of their careers, and then whoever won this game would just walk away with it all. While the loser of the game would have to scrap and fight to hold on to all the little scraps of greatness that he could. With his best case scenario being to gather up enough scraps, hoping he could cash them in before they lost all their value. But even though Deshaun got the best case scenario, given the circumstances created by the self-inflicted wound, maybe not as much fully guaranteed, but he was gonna get a crazy payday. Either way it went, he had earned it at that point. But while his self-inflicted wound didn't really hurt his pockets, it did change the entire trajectory of his career. The reason I'm painting this picture is because Deshaun's self-inflicted decline for a lot of fans at that time really came out of nowhere. This is weird, but if I went to outer space right after that game and came back 2 years later in 2022, watched the divisional game of Mahomes versus Allen, and then seen a style of play that they both was utilizing, After that isolated game, bro, seeing nothing else, I would have assumed that they was playing against the Texans in the next round. The game's gone in the direction of Deshaun's greatest strengths as a player, which is part of the reason he led the league in 2020. The way the league has evolved with better D-line play and much worse O-line play thanks to several factors. But because of that, the second reaction improvising quarterback has become the top archetype in the quarterback position. I'm sure people have said this, but Mahomes is similar to Steph Curry because they're both extreme, uniquely skilled players. The primary strengths of their games would have been held back in past eras, or even worse, coached out of them entirely. But fortunately for them, man, they both hit their primes around the same time their sport went in the direction of their strengths. Teams finally started coaching to the strengths of these skill sets, whereas before people believed you couldn't win playing like this. And all of a sudden these players went from being forced to play traditional to everybody else being forced to play like them. Needless to say, when the market comes to you and you're already great, that's a massive advantage. Thing is, Deshaun plays with a similar type of style, a great improviser and second reaction guy. Most of his best plays in Houston come from him making guys miss, buying time, and then creating on his own out of structure. With a skill set like this and the resume he built up to that point and the game itself going in his direction, considering all of that makes you wonder where his career would be if he didn't decide to just push it off a cliff. But since it's happening in real time, it's hard to put it in perspective where his trajectory was headed versus where it's headed now. I think it's obvious that the contract he signed helped to mitigate some of that, but from an accomplishment standpoint, a career respect standpoint, a resume standpoint, the drop off is significant. But you can only truly measure like the distance he's fallen if you look at what his career could have been versus what it is now. After the playoff game that I opened up with, he played the next season and led the league in passing yards, but immediately after, the imaginary terms of the make-believe wager would come into effect.
Deshaun Watson has officially said, I want out of town. The Houston Texans, Jack Easterby and Cal McNair, the two that run that squad.
The NFL is investigating sexual misconduct allegations made against Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson. A Texas-based lawyer has filed lawsuits on behalf of at least 7 women. All of the accusers work in the health and wellness industry. They accuse the quarterback of inappropriate behavior during massages over the past year.
Deshaun Watson assaulted and harassed me on March 30th, 2020.
Ashley Solis was the first woman to file a civil lawsuit against the NFL star.
I got into massage therapy to heal people.
Ian, where is Deshaun going next?
Deshaun Watson is expected to be a member of the Cleveland Browns. An unbelievable, stunning turn of events. When this trade is completed, Watson is expected to get a 5-year, $230 million contract that is fully guaranteed. That is $80 million more than the previous record for fully guaranteed money at signing.
The Deshaun Watson saga just gets weirder and weirder and weirder, and truer words have not been spoken. We have seen what has happened since Deshaun Watson signed his contract with the Cleveland Browns. I just keep thinking back to, it has now been 10 games, 10 football games he has played. He has started, rather, 10 of them. There hasn't been one of those 10, not a single one, where you watch the game and you say, boy, that's the Deshaun Watson that the Browns paid for. Not one. Not a single one.
Over the last 3 seasons, he's played a total of 12 games out of a possible 50 due to the suspension and injuries. And when he has played, he mostly hasn't looked like himself, as he struggles to fight the rust off and regain his old form. But this past week, he got injured once again, and will now miss the remainder of the season. The only way to shake the rust off is in-game reps. So when next year starts, is he really gonna come out of the gate swinging? And it's tough, because the Browns roster is absolutely stacked, and that defense with Myles Garrett, bro, is top tier. Considering the fact that the Browns have been winning, while Deshaun has been kind of trying to figure it out, losing the rest of this year is a big loss for dude. He'll need a real playoff run to get his career back on track. And it's tough because the last 2 quarters that he played were the best 2 that he's played since his time in Houston. Next season when he returns, he'll be 29 years old. Still not too old to put together a 3rd resume. His first one's pretty good, his second one's terrible, but I think he's got one more shot to put in a new resume. If he was a straight scrambling quarterback, I'd say 29 is pretty old. But we've seen improvising guys play into their mid-30s. But one thing's for sure, bro, time is running out. And to live up to any semblance of the potential he once had, without question, the third act of this movie is gonna have to be by far the best part of the movie. Bro, I told enough stories and I lived enough life to know your lowest moments, bro, they don't have to destroy you. Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. And some people go way lower than others, but you can't climb back out. But even if you choose to dwell at the bottom of that pit and blame everybody else for putting you down there, or you take it upon yourself to climb out of that pit, either way, it's a part of your story. And the story continues even after your worst chapter. And you can try to rip them pages out, but bro, we already read it. So the advice that I would give to a person like Deshaun Watson is that all you can control is the part you're still writing. But these next couple of chapters gonna have to be on point or people gonna close the book on your career. That's all I got.